Welcome, students. Today, we will discuss Chapter 19 Chemical Coordination and Integration Theory Part 4. And in today's session, we will cover NCERT Section 19.2, 19.3, and 19.4. This is disclaimer. So, these will be our learning objectives for today. We will understand ovarian structure, folliculogenesis, and production of estrogen and progesterone. Then we will identify cardiac hormones and their role in blood pressure regulation. Then we will explain renal hormones, which are renin, erythropoietin, and their function. Then we will describe GI hormones, which are gastrin, secretin, CCK, and digestive regulation. Finally, we'll comprehend hormone action mechanism through receptor binding, secondary messengers, and cellular response. Let's see the index. So, today we will cover human endocrine system, which will cover NCERT section 19.2. In here, we will cover ovary. Then we will discuss hormones of heart, kidney, and GI tract, which will cover NCERT section 19.3. Then we will also discuss mechanism of hormone action, which will cover NCERT section 19.4. Finally, we'll bind up the chapter with summary. Then we'll discuss some NCERT based questions. Finally, we'll end this session with some keynotes and interesting questions. So let's start with the introduction. Female reproductive system. We know it includes organs like the ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, and vagina, each with specific roles in reproduction. Okay, the ovaries here produces eggs and hormones. Fallopian tubes help in fertilization, and the uterus is where the fetus develops, and the vagina is the passageway for childbirth and sexual intercourse. So all here work together in menstrual cycle and pregnancy process. Okay. In this picture also you can see ovarian hormone. What are the hormones that ovary secretes? Okay. So females have two ovaries, which are small oval-shaped organs located in the abdominal cavity, specifically in the lower part of the pelvis near the kidneys. So these ovaries are responsible for producing egg, or we can call it as ova, and the hormones estrogen and progesterone, which play a key role in menstrual cycle and pregnancy. The ovaries, we know these are the primary female reproductive organs located in the lower abdomen, and their main functions are to produce eggs or ova, secrete hormones like estrogen and progesterone. You can also see in this diagram, which regulate the menstrual cycle and support pregnancy. So these organs are essential for female reproduction and also play a key role in development of secondary sexual characteristics. So they consist of ovarian follicles and stromal supporting tissues. Okay, ovarian follicles, these are the structures that contain and nurture the developing eggs, while stromal tissues provide support and structural framework to the ovary, helping in hormone production and maintaining the ovary shape as well as function. So we have just discussed, we can summarize in this way that ovaries are female reproductive organs that produces eggs and hormones like estrogen and progesterone. So they release one mature egg each month during ovulation and prepare the uterus for possible pregnancy by regulating these menstrual cycles. So these functions are essential for fertility and maintaining the female reproductive system's health. So during each menstrual cycle, a woman's ovaries releases one mature egg cell, which is called as ovum, through a process which is called as ovulation. So this happens when a follicle in the ovary ruptures and releases the egg into the fallopian tube, where it may be fertilized by a sperm cell. Okay, so the single ovum is produced once per cycle, which typically lasts about 28 days, and it is very important for the possibility of pregnancy. So during the menstrual cycle, what happens? The ovary secretes two main steroid hormones, estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen in here is mainly produced in the first half of the cycle during the follicular phase and helps in the growth and thickening of the uterine lining, while also stimulating the development of secondary sexual characteristics. Whereas progesterone is secreted in the second half of the cycle during the luteal phase and prepares the uterus for possible pregnancy by maintaining the thickened lining and supporting early pregnancy if fertilization occurs. So here both the hormones work together to regulate the menstrual cycle and support reproductive health. So ovarian follicles are responsible for estrogen production. Okay, they play a key role in female reproduction by producing the hormone estrogen, which helps in the development of secondary sexual characteristics and regulates menstrual cycle as well. So after ovulation, what happens? The ruptured follicle transforms into corpus luteum, which is temporary endocrine structure in the ovary. The corpus luteum here plays a key role in menstrual cycle by producing progesterone, which is a hormone essential for preparing the uterine lining, or we can call it as endometrium. So it prepare the uterine lining for potential implantation of the fertilized egg. So progesterone here also maintains, or we can say it helps in maintaining the early stages of pregnancy by supporting the endometrium and suppressing further ovulation. So if pregnancy does not occur, the corpus luteum degenerates, leading to a drop in progesterone levels on the onset of menstruation. Let's talk about estrogen. So it is a hormone which primarily produced by the ovaries in females, and it plays a key role in the development and regulation of the female reproductive system and secondary sexual characteristics. So it helps in the growth of the uterus and breast. It regulates the menstrual cycle and it supports pregnancy. So estrogen here also influences, apart from menstrual cycle and pregnancy, it also influences bone density, skin health, and mood. In males, it is present in smaller amount and helps in the development of secondary sexual characteristics. So this is a hormone which is primarily produced by the ovaries. In males, it is present, but it is in smaller quantity. So estrogen is a primary female sex hormone that regulates reproductive development, menstrual cycle, and secondary sexual characteristics. Types of estrogen and their development stages. So estrogen is a group of hormone we have just discussed that play a key role in development and regulation of female reproductive system and secondary sexual characteristics. So there are mainly 3 types of estrogen. First we have estradiol, then we have estrone, and third is estriol. Okay, so estradiol is the most potent and active form primarily produced during reproductive years and is very important for development of female secondary sexual characteristics such as breast development, regulation of menstrual cycle. Then second we have estrone, active and mainly produced after puberty. While talking about estriol, it is the weakest form, often increasing during pregnancy to support fetal development and prepare the body for childbirth. So you can see types of estrogen and their developmental stages. Okay, we have just talked about estriol, estradiol, and estrone. Let's talk about function of estrogen. So till now we have discussed that it helps in the growth of female reproductive organs like the uterus, ovaries, and regulates the menstrual cycle and promotes the development of breast and body shape typically in females. It also affects bone density and skin health, and it is involved in maintaining pregnancy. Okay. In addition, we can say estrogen influences mood, metabolism, and overall well-being in women. So it stimulates growth and development of female secondary sex organs. Okay. So they play a key role in stimulating the growth and development of these organs such as breast, uterus, and also influence the development of secondary sexual characteristics like body shape and pubic hair, which are very important for sexual maturity as well as reproduction. It promotes the development of growing ovarian follicles. Okay. It refers to the role of certain hormones such as follicular stimulating hormone, or we can call it as FSH, which is secreted by the anterior pituitary. So FSH here acts on the ovaries to stimulate the growth and development of ovarian follicles, which are very important for the production of eggs, or we can say oocytes, during the menstrual cycle. So this process is a key part of female reproductive physiology and is regulated by the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian, or we can say HPO axis. So it is responsible for female secondary sexual characteristics. Okay, it stimulates the growth of reproductive system and also affects the vocal cords, making them longer and thinner, which results in higher pitch voice of key female secondary sexual characteristics. So it leads to high pitched voice, breast development. Also, we can call it as it typically happens between the age of 8 to 13. Okay, so It is triggered by the hormonal changes, especially an increase in estrogen, which causes the mammary glands to develop and the breast to enlarge. So this process is a part of body's preparation for potential reproduction and is a key indicator of the onset of puberty. Female body shape. Okay, so female body shape is generally characterized by the wider hips and more rounded figure compared to the males, which is primarily due to the influence of sex hormones like estrogen. So this shape is linked to the biological roles of females such as childbearing and lactation, which require specific physical adaptations like a broader pelvis to facilitate childbirth. So these differences are not just physical but also reflect evolutionary adaptations that support reproductive functions as well as nurturing behaviors. Controls mammary gland development. Okay, so mammary gland development is primarily controlled by the hormones such as estrogen and prolactin. These hormones regulate the growth, differentiation, and function of mammary tissue, particularly during puberty and pregnancy. So, estrogen promotes the growth of mammary ducts, while prolactin stimulates milk production after childbirth. So, this hormone control ensures the proper development and function of the mammary glands throughout the different stages of life. It regulates female sexual behavior and reproductive cycle as well. Let's talk about progesterone. So it is a hormone that plays a key role in female reproductive system, especially during menstrual cycle and pregnancy. So it helps prepare the uterus for pregnancy by thickening the uterine lining, making it a good environment for fertilized egg to implant. It also prevents the release of more eggs during pregnancy and maintains the lining of the uterus to support the developing baby. Additionally, progesterone helps in the development of mammary gland in preparation of lactation. Okay. Primary hormone supporting pregnancy maintenance. Okay. It is produced mainly by the corpus luteum in the ovary after ovulation. Progesterone helps prepare the uterus for embryo implantation by thickening the uterine lining and preventing the uterus from contracting. It also suppresses the immune system to prevent the body from rejecting the embryo and maintains the placenta during early pregnancy. If pregnancy does not occur, progesterone levels drop, leading to menstruation. It is essential for mammary gland development as well. Okay, it helps in forming alveoli. We know that various hormones are responsible for development of mammary glands. Why? Because it helps in forming alveoli, which are the small sacs in the breast that store milk, prepare the body to produce and release milk during lactation. So it is very important for mammary gland development as well. It stimulates formation of alveoli, or we can say milk storing sacs. It promotes milk production and secretion, and it works in conjunction with estrogen to regulate reproductive cycle. Okay, so this hormone, typically progesterone, it works along with estrogen, play a key role in menstrual cycle and pregnancy. Okay, we know that estrogen helps in the development of uterine lining during the first half of the cycle, while progesterone prepares the lining for potential implantation of a fertilized egg and maintains the early stages of the pregnancy. So together, they ensure the proper functioning of female reproductive system. Hormonal coordination. So we have just discussed that both hormones such as estrogen and progesterone work together to maintain reproductive health by regulating the menstrual cycle, supporting pregnancy, and ensuring the proper development of the female reproductive system. So estrogen, we know that it promotes the growth of uterine lining, while progesterone helps maintain it during the luteal phase, and it creates a supportive environment for potential embryo implantation. So together, they also influence secondary sexual characteristics and regulate the release of eggs from the ovaries, ensuring the body is ready for the reproduction at the right time. So during menstrual cycle, hormone levels such as estrogen and progesterone fluctuate, which regulate the different phases of the cycle. In the first phase, which is known as follicular phase, estrogen levels rise and stimulates the growth of ovarian follicles and the thickening of the uterine lining. So around mid-cycle, during ovulation, estrogen peaks and triggers the release of an egg. So after ovulation, in the luteal phase, progesterone levels increases to prepare the uterus for potential pregnancy. If pregnancy doesn't occur, hormone levels will drop, leading to the shedding of uterine lining, which is menstruation. So these hormonal changes are essential for the cycle to repeat, essential for fertility and pregnancy. So it refers to the nutrients or substances that are crucial for reproductive health. Okay. These include nutrients like proteins, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals, which are vital for the development of healthy eggs and sperm. And it also promotes proper hormonal balance and the growth of fetus during pregnancy. So they support the overall health of the reproductive system and ensure successful conception and a healthy pregnancy. That play a crucial role in female physical development. That play a crucial role in female physical development. What it does, it regulates processes such as puberty, growth of secondary sexual characteristics, and the development of reproductive organs, all of which are essential in the body's maturation and fertility. Hormones of heart, kidney, and GI tract. Okay. So in this picture, you can see the hormones which are secreted by our heart. Endocrine glands are the primary hormone producing structures in our body. We know that. These are the endocrine glands are the special organs in our body that produces and releases hormones directly into the bloodstream, which then travel to target organs to regulate important bodily functions like growth, metabolism, and reproduction. So these glands, they do not have any kind of duct to carry hormones, unlike exocrine glands, and are considered the main structures which are responsible for hormone production in the body. So some tissues in the body besides the endocrine glands can also produce and release hormone. For example, pancreas has cells that releases insulin and glucagon, and the stomach lining secretes gastrin. So these tissues are not specialized endocrine glands, but they still play a key role in hormone secretion, helping regulating various bodily functions like metabolism, digestion, as well as blood sugar levels. Okay, so it several other tissues also possesses hormone secreting capacity. So these non-endocrine tissues produces important hormones that regulate various physiological functions. So we have just discussed that some tissues in the body, even though they're not part of the endocrine system, can still produce hormones that help control important bodily functions like growth, metabolism, and stress response. So these hormones are released into the bloodstream and affect different organs and organ system and play a key role in maintaining the body's balance and proper function. Non-endocrine tissues and their hormones. So non-endocrine tissues are those that do not have specialized endocrine glands but still produce and secrete hormones. So these tissues releases hormones directly into the bloodstream or intercellular space to regulate various bodily functions. Examples include the cardiac muscle, which releases atrial natriuretic peptide, or we can say ANP, and the pancreas, which although an endocrine gland, can also has exocrine tissue for enzyme secretion. Okay. So cardiac muscle, we have just discussed cardiac muscles, which releases atrial natriuretic peptide or ANP, and the pancreas, which although an endocrine gland, also has exocrine activity. Okay. However, the focus here is on non-endocrine tissues like the heart and kidneys, which produces hormones such as ANP and erythropoietin, and it helps in maintaining homeostasis in the body. Okay. So let's talk about it in detail. So heart or atrial wall and atrial natriuretic factor or ANF. Okay, so atrial wall of the heart produces a hormone which is called as ANP. That is atrial natriuretic factor. So when the heart is stretched, which happens when blood volume increases. Okay. What happens here? ANP helps regulating blood sugar, blood pressure by promoting the excretion of sodium and water through urine, thus reducing blood volume and lowering blood pressure. So this whole mechanism is important for maintaining homeostasis in the body. So let's see the details. So it is secreted by atrial wall of the heart, which is called as atrial natriuretic factor. It is released when the heart's atria stretches due to increased blood volume, helping to regulate blood sugar, blood pressure, and fluid balance in the body. So ANF promotes the excretion of sodium and water in the kidneys, which reduces blood volume and lowers blood pressure, maintaining overall homeostasis in the body. Type, peptide hormone. We know peptide hormone is a type of hormone which is made up of small chains of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. Okay, so these hormones are produced by the endocrine glands and released into the bloodstream to travel to target cells where they bind to specific receptors to trigger various physiological responses such as regulating metabolism, growth, and reproduction. So, unlike steroid hormones, peptide hormones are water soluble and cannot pass through cell membranes directly. So they usually act through signaling pathways inside the cell. Examples include insulin and growth hormone, which are important for maintaining body's function and homeostasis. Primary function, blood pressure regulation. So it is the process by which the body maintains a steady and appropriate level of pressure in the blood vessels to ensure proper blood flow to all the organs. Okay, so this is mainly controlled by the heart. The heart pumps blood with enough force to reach all parts of the body, while blood vessels can restrict or widen to adjust the pressure. So, hormones like adrenaline and angiotensin also play a key role by influencing blood vessel width and heart rate as well. So, this regulation is essential to supply oxygen and nutrients to tissues and remove waste products efficiently. Let's talk about mechanism. So when blood pressure increases, the body releases a hormone which is called as adrenaline, which helps to quickly lower the blood pressure by increasing heart rate and dilating blood vessels, allowing blood to flow more easily. So this response is a part of the body's natural mechanism to maintain homeostasis and ensure adequate blood flow to vital organs. Vasodilation causes vasodilation, which is widening of blood vessels. So it occurs when the smooth muscles in the vessel walls relaxes, allowing the vessels to expand. So this whole process is caused by various factors such as the release of certain chemicals like nitric oxide, which signals the muscles to relax. As a result, blood flow increases, which helps deliver more oxygen and nutrients to tissue, especially during physical activity or in response to injury. This is a key mechanism in regulating blood pressure and maintaining proper circulation in the body. So when a person experiences a decrease in blood pressure, it can be due to various factors such as reduced cardiac output, decreased blood volume, or dilation of blood vessels. So in the context of biology, this can be linked to the functioning of cardiovascular system, where the heart's ability to pump blood effectively and the resistance in blood vessels play a key role in maintaining blood pressure. So a drop in blood pressure may indicate an underlying health issue such as dehydration, heart failure, or certain hormonal imbalances, all of which are important concepts. Okay, acts as natural blood pressure regulator. So it refers to how certain substances like some plants and or we can say nutrients can help maintain healthy blood pressure levels in the body. So it is related to the function of the circulatory system, and it shows how it regulates blood pressure through mechanisms like the heart's pumping action, blood vessel dilation or constriction, and the role of hormones such as adrenaline. So, some natural substances like garlic or certain minerals may support this regulation by improving blood flow and reducing the strain on blood vessels, thus helping to keep blood pressure within normal range. Kidney or juxtaglomerular cells. You can see in this picture hormones which are secreted by kidneys. So first let's talk about erythropoietin, which is a hormone produced mainly by the kidneys where there is when there is a low level of oxygen in the blood, which usually happens when there are fewer RBCs. So this hormone signals the bone marrow to make more and more RBCs, which help carry oxygen throughout the body. So it plays a key role in maintaining the body's ability to transport oxygen efficiently, especially in conditions like anemia or at higher altitudes where oxygen levels are very low. So juxtaglomerular cells in the kidney secretes renin, an enzyme that plays a key role in regulating blood pressure and fluid balance in the body. So when the blood pressure drops, these cells releases renin, which starts a cascade leading to production of angiotensin 2, a hormone that constricts blood vessels and stimulates the release of aldosterone, helping to retain sodium and water, thereby increasing blood pressure. So this process is part of renin angiotensin aldosterone system, or we can say RAS, which is very crucial for maintaining homeostasis in the body. So type, it is peptide hormone. Okay, we have just discussed that it is a peptide hormone is a type of hormone made up of small chains of amino acids acids, which are the building blocks of protein. Primary function, it stimulates erythropoiesis, or we can say RBC production. Okay, so EPO, or we can say erythropoietin, travels through the bloodstream to the bone marrow, where it signals stem cells to differentiate into RBCs, ensuring that the body maintains an adequate supply of oxygen carrying cells. So, this process is crucial for maintaining proper oxygen delivery to tissues and is regulated by the body's need for oxygen, especially during physical activity or at higher altitude. The importance, it is essential for maintaining adequate oxygen supply to the tissues. Okay. So it highlights the importance of respiration, which is essential for maintaining an adequate supply of the oxygen to the tissue. Okay, in biology, respiration, we know that it is a process by which cells uses oxygen to break down nutrients and produce energy in the form of ATP, which is very important for all kind of life processes. So this process in the mitochondria, and this happens in the mitochondria, and it is very important for sustaining life, as without sufficient oxygen, cell cannot function efficiently, leading to tissue damage and potentially life-threatening conditions. Let's talk about GI hormones. You can see in this picture what are the hormones which are majorly secreted by our GI glands. First, let's talk about gastrin in detail. So, it is a hormone produced by the G cells in the stomach lining, mainly in the pyloric region. So, it plays a key role in stimulating the secretion of gastric acids, or we can say HCl, by parietal cells in the stomach, which helps in digesting food and killing harmful bacteria. So, gastrin also promotes the release of pepsinogen, an inactive form of enzyme pepsin, which is very important for protein digestion. Additionally, gastrin stimulates the growth of stomach lining and regulates the movement of food through the stomach. Its release is mainly triggered by the presence of food in the stomach, particularly proteins, and is inhibited by the acid in the stomach. So, gastric mucosa is the inner lining of the stomach, composed of specialized cells that protect the stomach wall from the acidic environment and help in digestion. It contains glands that secrete gastric juice, which includes hydrochloric acid, or HCl, pepsinogen, and mucus. So the mucus here forms a protective layer that shields the stomach lining from self-digestion, while HCl activates pepsinogen to pepsin, an enzyme that breaks down proteins. And this lining also plays a key role in regulating the pH of stomach and maintaining the integrity of the digestive system. Let's talk about functions. It stimulates hydrochloric acid secretion. Okay. So, this function is associated with the hormone gastrin, which is released by the G cells in the stomach lining. And we have just discussed gastrin acts on parietal cells to stimulate the secretion of HCl, which is very important for activating digestive enzymes like pepsin and creating an acidic environment that helps in the digestion of the protein. Okay, so it stimulates HCl secretion. It promotes pepsinogen secretion. It promotes pepsinogen secretion here refers to the process by which certain substances like gastrin stimulate the parietal cells in the stomach lining to release pepsinogen, which is an inactive form of enzyme pepsin. Okay. So pepsinogen is then activated by the acidic environment of the stomach due to hydrochloric acid to become pepsin, which helps in the digestion of proteins into smaller peptides, an essential process in the digestion of. So it refers to the role of certain substances or organs that help break down food into smaller absorbable components. In the human body, enzymes like amylase, lipase, and protease produced by the glands such as salivary glands, liver, and pancreas play a key role in digesting carbohydrates, fats, and proteins respectively. So these hormones work in the digestive tract, starting from the mouth and continuing in the stomach and small intestine, to ensure that nutrients are properly broken down and absorbed by the body. Let's talk about secretin. It is a hormone produced by the small intestine in response to acidic chyme entering from the stomach. It travels through the bloodstream to the pancreas, where it stimulates the release of bicarbonate-rich fluids to neutralize the acid and create an optimum environment for digestive enzymes to work. Key role in maintaining the balance of acid and base in the digestive system. Talking about functions, it acts on exocrine pancreas. Okay. So its first function is it acts on exocrine pancreas. So it refers to the role of secretin and cholecytokinin, which are released by the duodenum in response to food. So these hormones act on the exocrine pancreas, stimulating it to release digestive enzymes into the small intestine to help break down food. So this function is important for proper digestion and nutrient absorption. You can see in this picture, it acts on exocrine pancreas. It stimulates water secretion. Okay. It refers to the biological process where substance or hormone triggers the release of water from the cells or glands. Okay. So this is commonly observed in processes like urine formation in the kidneys, where antidiuretic hormone or ADH stimulates the absorption of water back into the blood, thereby reducing the amount of water lost in urine. And it can also be seen in the function of certain glands, such as the salivary glands, which secrete saliva containing water. So this process is very important for maintaining water balance in the body and supporting various physiological functions. This promotes bicarbonate ion secretion. So the process of promoting bicarbonate ion secretion is important in the digestive system, particularly in the stomach, where it helps neutralize the acid produced during digestion. So bicarbonate ions here acts as a buffer, reducing the acidity of the stomach contents and protecting the stomach lining from any kind of damage. So this secretion is mainly carried out by parietal cells in the stomach lining, which releases bicarbonate into the gastric juice, ensuring a balance between acid production and protection of the stomach issues. It helps neutralize stomach acid. That refers to substances like antacid, which is commonly used to relieve indigestion or heartburn. Okay, so it helps neutralize. It acts as an antacid in the body, and it helps in neutralizing. It helps in neutralizing stomach acid. Okay, so we know stomach produces HCl to aid in digestion, but excess acid can cause us discomfort. It acts as a natural antacid. Cholecystokinin. It is a hormone released by the small intestine when food, especially fats and proteins, enters the digestive system. It signals the stomach to release more digestive enzymes and tells the liver to release bile into the small intestine to help digest fats. So CCK here also slows down the movement of food from the stomach to the small intestine, allowing more and more time for digestion and nutrient absorption. It has dual action. So it refers to how a hormone like secretin affects the pancreas in two ways. Okay. First, it stimulates the pancreas to release digestive enzymes into small intestine to help break down food. And second, it also prompts the pancreas to release bicarbonate to neutralize the acidic chyme coming from the stomach. So it creates a suitable environment for enzyme activity. Okay. We have talked about it already, that how secretin acts has a dual action. In similar way, our cholecystokinin also has dual function. First, we have just discussed it acts on pancreas, it stimulates enzyme secretion. Then we also talked about how it promotes bile juice secretion. Okay, so the gallbladder, we know that it is an organ that stores bile juice produced by the liver. So when food, especially fatty food, enters the stomach, the gallbladder releases stored bile juice into the small intestine through bile duct. So this bile juice helps in the digestion of fats by emulsifying them, making it easier for enzymes to break them down. So thus we can say we can say that gallbladder here plays a key role in promoting the secretion and release of bile juice to aid in digestion. Important for fat digestion. It refers to the role of bile in digestive system, which is very important for breaking down fats into smaller particles that can be absorbed by the body. So bile, which is produced by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, contains bile salts that emulsify fats, increasing the surface area for lipase enzymes to act upon, thereby facilitating the digestion and absorption of, or we can say absorption of dietary fats in the small intestine. So this process is essential for proper nutrient absorption and energy utilization in the body. Let's talk about gastric inhibitory peptide, or GIP. It is an enzyme or we can say it is a hormone that released by the small intestine in response to food, especially carbohydrates and fat. So this hormone helps in regulating digestion by emptying, which means it delays the movement of food from the stomach to the small intestine. Okay, so it helps in regulating digestion by slowing down gastric emptying, which means it delays the movement of food from the stomach to the small intestine. So this allows more time for the stomach to process the food, Additionally, GIB stimulates the release of insulin from the pancreas, helping to lower blood sugar levels after eating. It also inhibits the production of stomach acid and reduces the activity of stomach muscles, thus playing a key role in controlling digestion and blood sugar levels in the body. Talking about its function, it reduces gastric secretion. Okay, so it refers to the role of certain substances or processes in the digestive system that help decrease the amount of acid and enzyme produced by the stomach. So this is often related to the action of antacids or the hormone secretin, which signals the pancreas to release bicarbonate to neutralize excess stomach acid, thereby reducing gastric secretion and preventing condition like indigestion or ulcer. So it reduces gastric secretion, it decreases stomach motility, which means the movement of the stomach muscles, which helps in churning and mixing food with the digestive juices, becomes slower or less active. So this can lead to feeling of fullness, delayed digestion, and possibly discomfort or bloating as the stomach takes longer time to process the food. So this is related to how the digestive system functions, particularly the role of stomach in mechanical and chemical digestion, and how disruptions in its small activity can affect overall digestion as well as health. It helps in regulating digestive processes. Okay, so it refers to certain substances. It refers to certain role of certain substances like hormones or enzymes in controlling how the digestive system functions. Okay, let's talk about growth factors. So some hormones are secreted by the tissues that are not part of the endocrine system, such as heart, kidneys, or digestive tract. So these tissues releases hormone into the bloodstream in response to specific stimuli, even though they are not specialized endocrine glands. So for talking about example, the heart releases atrial natriuretic peptide or ANP to regulate blood pressure, and the kidneys produces erythropoietin to stimulate RBC production. So this shows that enzyme secretion can occur in various parts of the body, not just in the traditional endocrine glands. Okay. So, growth factors are mainly secreted by various non-endocrine tissues. We have just discussed about what are non-endocrine tissues. Okay, let's talk about function. So, it is very important for normal tissue growth. Okay, it aids in tissue repair. So, this line refers to the role of certain substances or processes that help in healing and regeneration of damaged tissues in the body. It supports tissue regeneration. So, it refers to the ability of certain biological process or substances to help damaged tissues heal and grow back, which is an important aspect of biological repair in living organisms. Okay, so this is often linked to the role of cells, especially stem cells and regenerative cells, which have the potential to divide and differentiate into various cell types to replace damaged or lost tissue. So this process is very important for healing wounds, recovering from injuries, and maintaining the health of organs. So it also highlights the importance of cellular division and differentiation in biological systems. And overall, we can see that growth factors, talking about growth factors, it is essential for normal tissue growth. It aids in tissue repair as well as it supports tissue regeneration. It is important for wound healing. We have just discussed it. Significance. So it is critical for maintaining tissue health and recovery. Okay. So it is important. We have just discussed that it aids in tissue repair. It supports tissue regeneration, and it is very important for wound healing. So this is its significance. Hormone receptors. So you can see in this picture the whole mechanism of hormone receptor. Specialized proteins are specially bind to hormone. So specialized proteins such as we can call it as hormone receptors. So specialized proteins are known as hormone receptors. They are found on and inside or inside cells and are designed to specifically bind to certain hormones, allowing the hormone to trigger a response within the cell. So these receptors recognize and attach to their corresponding hormone molecules, much like a key fits into the lock. It ensures that each hormone here only interacts with the right target cells, which is very important for proper body function. So it is specialized proteins. Hormone receptors are specialized proteins that specifically bind to hormones. located exclusively in target tissues. Okay, these are so hormones we know that are located exclusively in the target tissues. These are the hormones that are only present in the specific or tissues, or we can say organs. They are meant to affect rather than being widespread in the body. Okay, they are present at specific tissues or organs. So this localization here ensures that the hormone only acts on its intended target, making the response more precise and efficient. So this is often seen in hormones like insulin, which is produced by the pancreas and acts specifically on cells in the liver, muscle, and fat tissue. So each receptor here is highly specific to one particular hormone, meaning that a hormone can only bind to its corresponding receptor, just like a key fits into only one lock. Okay, one kind of lock. Okay, so the specificity ensures that hormones only affect the muscle. Hormones only affect the cells that have the right receptors, allowing the body to control different processes accurately as well as efficiently. So it acts as the first step in hormone signaling path. So the first step in hormone signaling pathway is when a hormone produced by the endocrine gland is released into the blood. And this hormone travels throughout the blood to reach its target cells, which have specific receptors that recognize and bind to the hormone. So this binding initiates a response inside the target cell, starting the process of communication that regulates various bodily functions. Let's see types of hormone receptors. In this picture, you can see the whole pathway of membrane receptor. Let's talk about it. So membrane-bound receptors are the proteins located on the surface of cells that detect and respond to signals from outside the cell, such as hormones or neurotransmitters. So these receptors are embedded in the cell membrane and bind to specific signaling molecules, triggering a response inside the cell by activating internal signaling pathways. So this process allows cells to communicate and coordinate activities in multicellular organisms. So it is located on the cell membrane. So it refers to the position of certain molecules or structures within the cell. So this typically describes protein receptors or channels that are embedded in the cell membrane, which is the boundary of the cell. So these structures here play a key role in communication, transport, and interaction between the cell and its environment. So water-soluble hormones such as insulin and adrenaline are unable to cross the cell membrane because they are polar and hydrophilic. Therefore, they primarily interact with the receptors located on the cell surface, triggering intracellular signaling pathways that lead to cellular response. So this interaction is essential for processes like metabolism and stress response, and it is a key mechanism. Don't allow hormone entry to the cell. Initiate signaling cascades through second messengers. So when a cell receives a signal like a hormone or growth factor, it starts a chain reaction inside the cell called a signaling cascade. So this process uses special molecules called second messengers, such as cyclic AMP, or we can say CAMP, or calcium ions, which carry the signal from the cell surface to the inside. So these second messengers activate enzymes or other proteins, leading to changes in the cell's behavior like growth, division, or movement. So this system allows cells to respond quickly and efficiently to external signals, which is very important for processes like development, immunity, as well as maintaining body function. You can see in this picture intercellular receptor pathway. Let's discuss about it brief. So the intercellular receptors are special proteins found inside the cell that receive signals from the hormones or other molecules which can't pass through the cell membrane. So these receptors are usually located in the cytoplasm or nucleus and can bind to signaling molecules, triggering a response inside the cell, such as changing gene activity or cell behavior. So they play a key role in processes like growth, development, and metabolism, and are very important in how cells communicate and respond to their environment. They are located inside the cell, mainly in the nucleus. They interact with lipid soluble hormones. Okay, so lipid soluble hormones such as steroid hormones can easily pass through the cell membranes because they are fat soluble, allowing them to enter the cell and can bind to the receptors inside the cell, typically in the cytoplasm or nucleus, to influence gene expression and cellular function. So, allow direct gene regulation. So, allowing direct gene regulation here refers to the ability of cells to control gene expression without the need for intermediate steps such as the production of regulatory protein. Okay, so this is very important because it highlights how genes can be turned on or off directly in response to environmental signals or developmental cues, enabling precise control over cellular functions and processes. So this direct regulation is often achieved through mechanisms like transcription factors binding directly to the DNA or through non-coding RNA molecules that influence gene activity, also called nuclear receptors. The nuclear receptors are type of protein found inside the cell's nucleus that can bind to specific hormones, allowing them to regulate gene activity and controls various cellular processes such as metabolism and development. So these receptors act as switches that turn genes on and off in response to hormone signals, playing a crucial role in how the body responds to internal and external signals. Let's see classification of hormones. Let's talk about peptide or protein hormones. So these are made up of amino acids and are larger in size compared to steroid hormones, and they cannot pass through the cell membrane, and instead they bind to receptors on the cell surface, triggering a series of internal signals that affect the cell's activities. So these hormones play a key role in regulating processes like metabolism, growth, and reproduction, and are produced by various glands such as pituitary and pancreas. So hormones like insulin, glucagon, those released by the pituitary gland are chemical messengers that help regulate important bodily functions. So insulin, we know, we talked about it already, that these are made by the pancreas, lowers blood sugar level by helping absorb glucose. On the other hand, glucagon does the opposite, raising on blood sugar level when it's too low. So the pituitary gland, often called the master gland, releases hormones that control other glands and processes like growth, metabolism, and reproduction, showing how hormones work together to maintain overall balance in the body. Then it is water soluble. We know water soluble are the substances that can dissolve in the water easily. They cannot pass through cell membrane. Okay, because the membrane is made up of lipid bilayer that is selectively permeable, and it allows only certain small non-polar molecules to pass through easily. Larger or polar molecules like glucose or ions cannot pass through the lipid bilayer on their own and require special transport proteins, or we can say transporters or channels, to move in and out of the cell, ensuring that the cell maintains its internal environment. It uses membrane receptors. I have just discussed these are special proteins located on the surface of cell membranes that helps cells detect and respond to signals from other cells of the environment. Let's talk about steroid hormones. These are type of hormone made from cholesterol, which is type of fat that are produced by the certain glands like adrenal and sex glands. These hormones can pass through cell membranes because they are fat soluble, allowing them to directly enter cells and bind to receptors inside the cell, which then influences gene activity and controls various bodily functions such as metabolism, development, and reproduction. So unlike water soluble hormones, steroid hormones do not require carrier proteins in the blood and have slower but long lasting effects in the body. So these hormones include cortisol, testosterone, estradiol, and progesterone. Lipid soluble. It is lipid soluble means that that we can call something as lipid soluble when that substance can dissolve in lipids, which are fats and oils found in the cell membrane. So because of this property, lipid soluble substances can easily pass through the cell membrane, which is primarily made up of lipids, without needing special transporter, or we can say channel. Can pass through cell membrane. It uses intracellular receptors. We have just discussed that these are about what are intracellular receptors. These are special proteins located inside the cells, using usually in the cytoplasm or nucleus, that bind to certain hormones or signaling molecules such as steroid hormones, which can pass through the cell membrane. So once these molecules attach to the receptors, they trigger a response inside the cell by activating genes or other cellular processes, allowing the cell to react to signals from outside the cell. So this system is important for regulating various bodily functions like metabolism and development. So let's talk about iodothioronins. These are active thyroid hormones produced by thyroid gland, primarily thyroxine and triiodothyronin. These hormones play a key role in regulating metabolism, growth, and development in the body. They are synthesized from the amino acid tyrosine and contain iodine atoms, which is why they are called as iodothioronins. Okay, so T3 here is more biologically active than T4, and T4 is converted into T3 in various tissues. These hormones are essential for normal growth, brain development, and maintaining the body's metabolic rate. Thyroid gland. We know it is produced thyroid hormone, which is we know that it is produced by the thyroid gland, and it play a key role in regulating metabolism, growth, and development in the body. These hormones, we mainly know that thyroxine, that is T4, and triiodothyronine, which is T3, are essential for normal brain development in children and maintaining energy levels in adults. And these are controlled by pituitary gland through the hormone TSH, which signals the thyroid to produce more hormones when needed. The imbalances in thyroid hormone can lead to disorders like hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, affecting various bodily functions. It is lipid soluble. It uses intracellular receptors. Let's talk about amino acid derivatives. So these are the compounds formed from amino acid by adding or modifying groups to them, and they play a key role in various biological processes. First, we have epinephrine. So epinephrine, or we can say adrenaline, is a hormone produced by the adrenal gland in response to stress or danger. So it helps the body prepare for fight and flight reaction by increasing heart rate, raising blood pressure, and boosting energy levels. So this hormone is crucial during emergencies as it enables quick physical and mental responses to. It is usually water soluble and it uses membrane receptors. Signaling mechanism. So membrane receptor pathway, uh, we have discussed already. It is a way cells respond to signals from outside. When a signaling molecule like a hormone or neuroreceptor binds to the receptor on the cell surface, it triggers a series of reactions inside the cell. These reactions often involve second messengers, help the cell change its behavior, such as growing, dividing, or moving. So this pathway allows cells to communicate and react to the environment efficiently, which is a key concept in understanding cell signaling. So this hormones binds to membrane receptor, activates second messengers, or we can say CAM, IP3, or calcium ion. So when a hormone or neurotransmitter binds to the receptor on the cell surface, it activates enzymes inside the cell that produces second messengers like CAM or IP3 and calcium phosphate. Okay, so these messengers here travel inside the cell and trigger a chain of reactions that ultimately lead to cellular response, such as muscle contraction, enzyme activation, or gene expression without needing the hormone to enter the cell. The second messengers trigger cellular responses. Second messengers, we know these are special molecules inside cells that helps carry out signals from the hormones or neurotransmitters, which can't directly enter the cell. So the process of cell entry without direct entry means substances here cannot simply pass through the cell membrane on their own. Instead, they require special mechanisms like endocytosis or exocytosis to move in or out of the cell, ensuring control, transport, and maintaining cellular integrity. Rapid response. Okay, it lead to rapid response. So hormone enters cells. So when hormone enters cells, it binds to specific receptors inside the cell, which then triggers a series of biochemical reactions that can lead to cellular response. It binds to the intercellular receptors. Complex moves to nucleus, directly affects gene expression. This is slower but longer, or we can say long-lasting effect can be seen. Okay. So it in the body it refers to certain stimuli that takes more time to start but continues for longer duration compared to faster short-lived reactions. Okay, so this is commonly seen in responses mediated by the endocrine system, where hormones travel through the bloodstream, take time to affect target organs, but their effects can last for hours, days, or even weeks. Okay, so this contrasts with the nervous system's rapid, short-lived responses, which are quicker but do not last as long. Let's talk about some physiological effects. So it leads to changes in cellular metabolism. So it refers to alterations in the biological processes that occur within cells to produce energy and synthesize essential molecules. The changes can be triggered by various factors like nutrient availability, environmental conditions, or cellular signals, and they enable cells to adapt to different physiological needs, ensuring efficient energy use and maintaining cellular function. Regulation of protein synthesis. It leads to regulation of protein synthesis. Okay. it also has an effect on modulation of enzyme activity. It refers to the way enzyme can be turned on or turned off to control the rate of biochemical reactions in the body. Okay. And control of growth and development. It refers to regulated process by an organism by which an organism grows and matures, which are controlled mainly by genes, hormones, and environmental factors. Maintenance of homeostasis. We talked about homeostasis. It is the body's way of keeping its internal environment stable as well as balanced, even when the outside world changes. So it ensures that important factors like temperature, blood sugar levels, and fluid balance stay within healthy range in the body. Let's talk about hormone receptor complex. So it is formed when a hormone binds to specific receptor on an inside target cell, allowing the hormone to carry out its function. So it forms when hormone binds to its specific receptor, acts as an active unit for cellular response, and it initiates cascade of biochemical reactions which eventually lead to specific physiological changes. So we'll wind up the chapter with summary. We discussed about ovary, which produces estrogen and progesterone, regulates menstrual cycle and female reproductive functions, and it is very important for development of secondary sexual characteristics. We also talked about heart hormones. Specifically, we talk about atrial natriuretic peptide or ANP and how it regulates blood pressure. Then we talked about how it helps in sodium and fluid balance and how it reduces blood volume. Then we also talked about kidney hormones. It produces erythropoietin or EPO for RBC production. Renin, we know renin is important for blood pressure regulation. So it converts vitamin D to active form. Okay. So we talked about erythropoietin in kidney specifically, and in hearts we also we talked about ANP or atrial natriuretic peptide, and we also talked about ovary that they secrete or produce two important hormone, mainly estrogen and progesterone. There are other hormones as well, but specifically estrogen and progesterone regulates menstrual cycle and regulate the overall female reproductive function. Then we also talked about gastrointestinal hormones. So gastrin stimulates acid secretion in here. Then we also talked about cholecystokinin, which aids in digestion. Then we also talk about secretin, which regulates pancreatic secretions. Then we discuss about the mechanism of hormone action. In here, first what happened? It binds to specific receptors. Hormone binds to specific receptors, and it can be membrane or nuclear receptors, and it triggers cellular response through second messengers, or we can say secondary messengers, and it results in physiological changes and involve gene activation. So this is question number 1. So let's discuss some NCERT based question, and this is question number 1 of NCERT based question, and the question is hormone dash, and we have given 4 options, and we have to fill the correct one in the blank space. Okay, let's see the answer and discuss the answer. So here option number B is correct, which is FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone. Let's see or we can say discuss the result, discuss the solution. So FSH or follicular stimulating hormone, we know it is secreted by anterior pituitary, which is the part of brain. So this hormone plays a key role in reproductive system by stimulating the growth of follicles in the ovaries in females and promoting sperm production in the testes of male. Okay. So it is part of hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, where the hypothalamus releases gonadotropin releasing hormone, which signals the pituitary to release FSH and another hormone, which is called as luteinizing hormone. The primary function is to stimulate follicle development in the ovaries, and it is very important for female reproductive cycle. It helps in maturation of ovarian follicles, and it is very important for proper egg development in female. Now this is question number 2, and the question is of match the following type. We have given 2 lists, or we can say 2 columns, and we have to match them correctly. So let's see the correct option. So here option number B is correct, which is cytokinin is matched with duodenum, erythropoietin is matched with kidney. Then third is inhibin is matched with D, which is ovary, and fourth is nitriuretic peptide is matched with. Okay, let's discuss the answer in detail. So cholecystokinin or CCK is a hormone released by the cells in the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine, and it plays a key role in digesting, or we can say digestion of, in overall digestion by stimulating the release of digestive enzymes from the pancreas and causing the gallbladder to release bile, which helps in breaking down fats. Erythropoietin is primarily produced by the kidneys. We discussed in the lectures. Then inhibin, we know it is produced by the gonads, primarily the ovaries in the females. The natriuretic peptide is produced primarily by heart muscle cells. Now this is question number 3, and the question is, which gastrointestinal hormone stimulates insulin secretion? We have given 4 options and we have to opt the correct one. So option number B, C is correct, which is GIP, that is gastric inhibitory peptide. We also discussed this in our lecture also. Let's discuss the solution in detail. So glucose dependent insulinotropic polypeptide or GIP is an incretin hormone released by the small intestine in response to food, especially carbohydrates, fats, and it primarily helps in regulating blood sugar by stimulating insulin release from the pancreas, similar to other incretins like GLP-1. So here GIP also plays a key role in growing stomach emptying and reducing appetite, thus contributing to glucose homeostasis and energy balance in the body. So it is released from the cases in the duodenum and jejunum. Talking about its main function, so it stimulates insulin secretion from pancreatic beta cells. It is released in response to glucose and fat in small intestine, and it works along with GLP-1 or glucagon like one peptide 1 to promote insulin secretion. These are some interesting facts about this chapter. First, we have ovary contains primordial follicles that can remain dormant for decades. An ovary produces inhibin, which selectively suppresses FSH. Heart secretes atrial natriuretic peptide or ANP when stretched. ANP reduces blood sugar and blood pressure and blood volume. Then kidney produces erythropoietin for RBC production, or we can say red blood cell production. And kidney converts vitamin D to its active form. GI tract secretes ghrelin, or we can say hunger hormone from stomach. GI tract produces cholecystokinin to regulate digestion. Then hormone action works through secondary messengers like CAMP. Some hormones directly after gene transcription. Okay. So some hormones releases directly after altered gene transcription. So these are some interesting questions. So you can take screenshot of it and solve it after the completion of this lecture. So thank you so much for your attention. I hope this lesson was useful.